Hello everyone. Today I'm going to talk about Yavapai Museum of Geology. We stopped there when we went to the Grand Canyon. It's on the south rim. Now, the museum is very interesting to me because I love stratigraphy, and this is a stratigrapher's paradise, this little museum, and that's what we're going to talk about here. Now, as you enter the museum, you look out through the windows and you can really see the canyon. Now, the canyon has a couple of what we call great unconformities within it. The most obvious one is this one here highlighted in black that has the Phanerozoic deposits above it, which are mostly level, evenly bedded, and that's the stuff from the Cambrian to today. There's some exceptions to that. And at the base we have the Proterozoic rocks, which contain the oldest Vishnu group, all the way up to the more recent Grand Canyon supergroup, which we're going to talk about here in a second. Now I'm just going to talk about the strat column you see here on the left, which is from Arizona University, which is on the bottom there. And you can see here they basically have the light blue is the Phanerozoic, which is mostly Paleozoic. On top there's that green, which is Triassic, and I've talked about that formation before at other places. But you see this great unconformity here. This is the one most people think about when they think of the canyon. But there's another one as well, and we're going to see that later. But this bluish purple, that's the Grand Canyon supergroup. And although the Grand Canyon supergroup is drawn here really small, where it's not faulted out, now remember this is a fault here, there are other faults. This column is extremely oversimplified. I know it looks complex, but it's actually very simple. But anyway, remember a fault is more of a contact than it is an unconformity. We're not faulted out. That can be as much as 3 times thicker than all of the light blue, green, and yellow stuff you see here. The yellow and white stuff you see here, those are really young lava flows. We're not going to talk about those. Now on the bottom, beneath all the blue stuff, you see this kind of tan color, light brown. That's older than the Grand Canyon supergroup. That's what's often called basement rock, and it's mostly, as you can see here, the Vishnu group. These are metamorphic and volcanic rocks. Now the rocks of the Vishnu schist are about 1.84 billion years old, and you can see here you have the Zoroaster Plutonic complex. That's about 1.71 billion years old. Now about 500 million years or so had passed before the Grand Canyon supergroup, which is mostly sedimentary rock. There's some volcanics within it, but that began being deposited about 1.25 billion years ago, or about 1,250 million years ago. So between the Grand Canyon supergroup and those basement rocks, you have the first great unconformity of about 500 million years. Now on top of all the Precambrian groups, and sometimes the Grand Canyon supergroup is faulted out. It doesn't exist. The Paleozoic or Phanerozoic rocks will sit right on top of the Vishnu. That is the second great unconformity, and that's the one most people recognize. It's less than the first great unconformity actually in missing time. It's somewhere around 300 million years or so. Now the Grand Canyon supergroup is 3 times thicker than all the other stuff above it, and it took about 425 million years to deposit. That's a lot more time than the overlying Paleozoic, to even include that Triassic deposit, which occurred over a time span of about 280 million years to deposit. So this Grand Canyon supergroup is often ignored in the park, but this museum is great because they have, let's just watch. Okay, now as we get into the museum there, you look down through the window, and I have a camcorder with really good zoom, but here you can see the flat lying level Paleozoic, Phanerozoic rocks on top of the more, it looks slope forming, but it's really not, it's been metamorphosed, basement rocks. It's really clear. Now there's many things in this museum that talk about the rocks and the processes in general, but I like the Precambrian rocks, so that's what I'm going to focus on. But feel free to look at the other stuff if you want, stop the video. Now here we have the forces of change, and I love this mural. It's very well done. But what's right next to it on the left here is even cooler. It's basically a stratigraphic column of the rocks from oldest to youngest. It has examples of the majority of the big formations in the canyon, and I love this so much. It's not really a strat column, but it's organized from oldest on the bottom to youngest on the top. And it really is a thing of beauty. Now you go around that, and right next to it they have this drawn out part of the canyon in a model, somewhat to-scale model. Now there's the first great unconformity, which above it has the Phanerozoic rocks that you can see here. That's the Paleozoic stuff and the Mesozoic stuff, and even younger stuff than that. And below it, what you're going to see here is you're going to see the Grand Canyon supergroup, which is sandwiched in between that top great unconformity and the lower, older second great unconformity between the basement rock and the Grand Canyon supergroup itself. You can also see some of the formation names here in this photo, and you can see the fault here that kind of faults in and out the Grand Canyon supergroup and separates it from those basement rocks as well as that second unconformity. Now here as you go up and you go around where they have the cross section cut into the model, they have a really good representation of what the canyon walls look like. Whoever did this did a really good job, and I'm really impressed. I think it's very beautiful, and it does it justice. Is it perfect? No, but it shows you the relationship of the rocks and our concept and our models and cross-section compared to what we actually see, and shows you how what we observe in the field and these cliff formers and slope formers translate into the actual rock record and what we see. And here, over here they have another one. This model is a little more weighted to the actual formation names, so you can see all of those in better detail. And here you have a deep look into time, and they have a little model here showing you the rock layers of the canyon. Now the layer cake geology is a misconception of the park. Even where it is kind of layer cake in the Phanerozoic, there's still all kinds of structures in the park. And remember, it's very complex. But anyway, that's it. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below.